welcome. Hang on. There it is. Welcome to Your Mac Life for Wednesday, August the 2nd. We're just debating whether summer is half over or not in the IRC chat room. My name is Shawn King. I'm your host for the show. Thank you guys very much for joining me here live on the show or in the archive if you so choose. For you folks who are watching in live, we're having a little bit of a problem. We had a major problem last week. Last week, Monty and I were sitting here and I was getting ready for the show, doing all the stuff that I would usually do, and FaceTime quit on me, which was kind of weird to have the FaceTime camera crash. And so I rebooted Wirecast, and Google Hangouts wouldn't recognize the Wirecast virtual camera. That was strange. So I had time and a little bit of a panic. I rebooted my computer. And I got this weird screen full of text. It took me a while to recognize it. It's a freaking kernel panic. I haven't seen a kernel panic in probably 2 years. It just, for me anyway, it doesn't happen anymore on my Macintosh. So it was just like, what? So ended up troubleshooting it. It wouldn't boot. I had to boot from an external hard drive, run the diagnostics, back up, reformat, reinstall. So my last Wednesday was shot. Hopefully we won't have any problems this Wednesday. But yeah, it's so typical of Wednesdays around here. On tonight's show, we have our good friend Jim Dalrymple of The Loop, of loopinsight.com, talking about Apple's earnings. Knockout earnings. Amazing. Across the board. iPads were up year over year. They sold like 11 million iPods. iPads. I got an iPod in the brain. We'll talk about iPods later. So great results for Apple. We'll talk to Jim about that. We're going to talk about iPods. That's what I was talking about. Apple has officially killed the iPod. The cute little iPod. I mean, they probably weren't selling a whole lot anyway, and the iPod Touch has kind of replaced it. Oh, I don't think it is. I think of the iPod Touch as an iPhone without calling ability. So the iPod will be late and lamented by us old timers. I still remember my first one. I'll talk about that a little later on. What else is going on? So this week, the Wirecast's virtual camera still isn't working with Google Hangouts. Monty says that he thinks that Google did something in the background to break it because it's broken. A bunch of other stuff is broken. So if you want just the video of me, who wants that? You can go to Google Hangouts. You can get the URL in IRC or in the Slack channel, or send me an email to Shawn at yourmaclifeshow.com. I'll send you the URL to Google Hangouts. Or you can check out the YouTube channel, which has the augmented video. It's just the video slides that I use. But there's about an 8 to 15 second delay depending on where you are in the internet connection. So, 6 of one, half dozen the other, which one you'll like better. My apologies for that. I don't know what's going on, but nothing I can do on this end right now. So my apologies. For those of you who are familiar, Dave Dykestal, as I said earlier, was in town a couple weeks ago. Dave, remember those mountains you saw on the North Shore? From where we were, you can't see those mountains anymore. The smoke from fires in the interior of British Columbia. The weather usually here is the wind blows in off the ocean across Vancouver and then into the interior of BC. Well, there's this weird weather inversion where the wind is now coming from the interior into Vancouver. What that means is it's very, very effing warm here. It was 38 degrees in the motorcycle this afternoon, which is 90 degrees Fahrenheit. It's about 35 in my apartment right now, even with the fan. It's stinking hot. But because of the way the wind is bringing this hot, dry air into the city, but it's also dragging in the smoke from severe forest fires in the interior of British Columbia. So we have this really weird, kind of cool, freaky weather and sky in the city. As someone said, it looks like brutally hot here in the city. Dave D says bed and Kamloops. AC in my office quit this week. That's awful. That's absolutely awful. Arcsign says iPod Touch still available. I hope it shrinks and gets cheaper. I wonder if that's even a possibility. I hadn't thought of it. I haven't looked at the iPod Touch in years. Is it a viable alternative? Because the iPod Touch is the thing that I recommend to folks like my sister for my niece Emily, who's 10, 11 years old. Melanie, my sister, doesn't want to give Emily a full-blown iPhone because it's too expensive, but getting her an iPod Touch where she can still run apps and she can still listen to her music, and when she's on Wi-Fi she can do a bunch of stuff. That seems like a viable alternative to her. I wonder, Apple hasn't said, and they won't say, how many iPod Touches they've sold or how many iPods they've sold in the last quarter. Obviously not enough for them to make money at it, so they've stopped. What was your first iPod? Do you remember? I'm just trying to see. Hang on. I've got one lying around here somewhere. I've got several lying around. My first one was Apple's first one. Apple sent, it was the first time this had ever happened. Apple sent to journalists, to members of the Mac media, the original iPods. And that was unusual because most of the time you had to ask Apple for review product. And even more unusual for Apple, when you requested product from Apple for review, you got a document and you signed it and you faxed it back or emailed it back that basically said, you get this for 2 weeks and then you got to ship it back to us. Okay, fine. But the iPod, the original iPod, was the first time Apple said to journalists, if your organization allows you, you can keep this iPod. It was the first time Apple had ever said that to journalists, that we're giving you product to keep. And I think that was a really, really smart idea because it allowed journalists to use it every day for longer than 2 weeks. But it also allowed journalists to go out into the world with their iPods and show them to other people. I remember, I've said this before, Sly is an amazing window shopper. Sly can go window shopping for 6 hours and not buy a goddamn thing. It's mind-blowing. I don't know how she can do it. But because I'm an idiot, Sly wouldn't let me shop with her. Sly doesn't like shopping with anybody. She likes to shop by herself. It's this weird little quirk of Sly's. So I would go to the Starbucks in Metrotown Mall. I'd sit in the Starbucks, and Sly would go off shopping. Well, I remember taking that original iPod into the Starbucks, and there was a guy at a table next to me, young guy, and he was fiddling with his CD player. And he had one of those CD library things, plastic things you flip through and had the CD sleeves in it. And he had 30 or 40, 50 CDs in there. And I had loaded up the iPod with a whole bunch of music. And Monty says, Sly doesn't go shopping with you because you lick all the spoons. You doesn't want to have to explain why. That's fair. So I noticed that the guy had an album. I don't remember what the album it was, but he had one that I had on the iPod. So I started talking. I said, you like that album? I said, yeah, I love that album. It's a great album. I said, do me a favor and listen to it on this. I said, plug your headphones into this. And he kind of looked at me kind of strange. And I handed it to him, and he saw the headphone port, and he plugged his headphones into it. And I didn't say anything to him. And he immediately got it. He immediately got what an iPod was. Because he immediately scrolled through, because there was a screen there. And he scrolled through, and he saw albums. And he clicked on that, and he saw my list of albums. He saw songs, saw my list of songs. He started playing a song, and he was like, this is really cool. I said, play around with it for a little bit. He played around for listen to some snippets of songs. And then he stopped and he unplugged and he gave back and he said, what is this thing? I said, it's called an iPod. Apple has just announced it. He said, how many songs can it hold? I said, it can hold, Apple says 5,000 songs. He looks at his CD wallet and goes, that's all of these. I said, yeah, dude, you can walk around with this device that's got all your music on it. And that was a big deal. I don't know that we, in the days of streaming music, we get that, or whether that's as important now as it was back then. But the idea of being able to carry around every song I owned, every album I owned, in my pocket, and that was Apple's ad campaign. It was a brilliant ad campaign. That I could walk around with this thing and at any point in time listen to any song I wanted that quickly. Didn't have to go to a CD wallet, didn't have to, carry my CD wallet in my backpack or in my luggage, my carry-on luggage when I went flying and anything like that. Whatever song I was in the mood for, I could find very quickly on the iPod. I love that scroll wheel. The scroll wheel, the original iPod scroll wheel, was my favorite input device. And so I kept doing that with a bunch of other people. Here, try this. To see how quickly people caught on to what an iPod was. And almost everybody instantly got it. Instantly got the interface of the iPod because it was so simple. It was literally, I don't know if it could have gotten any simpler. It was the most uncomplicated consumer electronic device we'd seen in a long, long time. I think probably still is one of the most uncomplicated devices you'll ever see, consumer electronics-wise. And so I think that helped. The fact that Apple let journalists keep it gave them a good feeling about Apple. The fact that it was easy to use gave them a good feeling about the iPod. The fact that it was fairly easy, depending on how technical you were, to get music off your CDs or off your computer and then onto the iPod through iTunes. All of that, I think, combined to help make the iPod a huge success among Mac users. Remember, the original iPod didn't work on Windows. It was a FireWire iPod. Most PCs didn't have FireWire connections, and it didn't work with any, I don't think it worked with any Windows software. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think the first generation iPod worked with any Windows software. MacMan in the IRC chat room says that design was one of the best designs they've ever made. I agree. I think that design was wonderfully simple. That I'd say it drove design, at least user interface design, for a while in the company. Very, very simple. Very, very easy to use. A couple weeks later, I was flying. I think we were going to Macworld Expo or something. I'm sitting on the plane, and again, the guy next to me, you now use electronic devices. Great. So the guy next to me pulls out his CD wallet, and he's flipping through 100 CDs. And he sees me, look, I'm just reading the names of his CDs. And he said, "Do you want to listen to anything?" I said, "No, I already got that." And he looked at me, and all that was on my tray table was this little cigarette pack thing. He said, "Where are they?" I said, "They're in here." "What are you talking about?" It turns out he was wasn't a financial analyst, but he was a business guy. I don't remember exactly what he did, but something fairly technical and important. And he said, "I'm going to buy Apple stock when I land." He said, because this thing is going to be huge. I don't know if Apple stock went up significantly on that. I'd also love to know how many Macs Apple sold because of the iPod. We'd heard of we heard of the halo effect later with the iPhone. I wonder if the iPod sold many Macs in that first year. Because remember, after the first year, Apple came up with a Windows version. And that's when it took off. That's when it went vertical on the sales charts. And everyone had them. Those white headphones were ubiquitous. They were everywhere. Everyone had white headphones on. Everyone was listening to an iPod. The Walkman made music personal as you traveled through the world, that you could block out, especially for us urban people. You could put on headphones and ignore the world. If you're on a bus, you don't get to listen to conversations. If you're on the train, you don't get to listen to the person next to you talking. If you're walking down the street, you don't get to listen to traffic. And you could have your own sonic landscape in your head, and no one else could hear it. It was great. Earbuds sucked. There was no doubt about that. I mean, I immediately went out and bought different, better earbuds. But, and I had a Walkman too. But the Walkman suffered from the problems of cassette. Again, you had to carry around a buttload of cassettes. You could make your own cassettes. That wasn't an easy process. It wasn't difficult, but it was fidgety. But the iPod meant you could carry all of your music with you and listen to whatever you were in the mood for at any time. I can almost guarantee that the iPod was the reason I stopped listening to radio. Because the iPod had no commercials. The iPod had no bad music on it. The iPod allowed me to listen to anything I wanted to without changing dials or stations or trying to find a DJ I liked. Or I think, at least for me, I mean, maybe you're different, but I haven't listened to radio for more than maybe 20 minutes since I got the original iPod. Because it takes 20 minutes for me to realize, yeah, this is why radio sucks. I don't like this song, and I can't skip past it. Oh, look, there's 5 minutes of commercials. I don't want to listen to 5 minutes worth of commercials. I don't know if streaming changes that. I don't stream music. I don't pay for a music service. I've still got my music. My playlist is still on my iPhone. Although riding the motorcycle, I don't listen to music much on the motorcycle. But I've got my playlist. So here's an example of my playlist. Long Hard Times to Come, Gangsta Grass, Nemesis, Shriekback, California Love, Tupac with Dr. Dre, Fish Below the Ice, Shriekback, Still in Hollywood, Concrete Blonde, Lose Yourself, Eminem, Coolio, Phil Collins, Everlast, Nina Simone, Van Morrison, Wall of Voodoo, White Stripes, U2, Tragically Hip, Steppenwolf, Brothers Johnson, The Clash, Rage Against the Machine, Ludacris. So you can see I've got a wide range of musical tastes that you can't get from radio. There was no radio station in the world that can satisfy my musical taste. And my tastes aren't eclectic. They're just broad. And it was fun creating playlists, too. I still remember sitting down with iTunes and my CDs and making my own cool little playlist. Okay, here's the quiet playlist. There was a lot of classical stuff. And then there was the rock and roll playlist. And there was the classics playlist, old songs from the 70s and 60s. And it was easy to do. It was fun to do, to create those playlists. And as Wayne points out, durability. No more scratch CDs. I was one of those idiots who, sold my CDs as soon as I ripped them, which was stupid because when I lost the MP3s, I didn't have the CDs anymore. Monty says, I recognize Phil Collins out of that list. Come on, man. Come on. You know a lot of those bands. Come on. And remember, the iPod came along at the same time as Napster. And that combination wasn't the death of the music industry, but it dealt it a almost mortal blow because I stopped buying CDs. And one of the things I stopped, one of the reasons why, was because we knew as music buyers, as CD buyers, we knew we were getting ripped off on a regular basis. And it pissed us off, but we didn't have a choice. We knew we were spending between $10 and $15 on a CD and getting 2 good songs from most of the major artists. And it pissed us off. And so when Napster and MP3s came along, a lot of us had no problem stealing music. None whatsoever. I didn't. I had no compunction whatsoever. When I lost my CDs, when I sold my CDs and then, for whatever reason, lost my MP3s, 3s, I went on Napster and downloaded all the music I wanted to. And I probably have bought maybe one CD a year since. Very few people would have admitted they were stealing music, but most of us did it. It was easy. It was absolutely easy. Now, that being said, I was more than happy when the iTunes store came out and we were able to buy music from the iTunes store. I had no problem doing that. I love doing that. But I didn't buy albums anymore. I stopped buying full albums for the most part, unless it was for, a favored band like Prince or something like that. But for the most part, I didn't buy any more albums. It was 99 cents here, 99 cents there, 99 cents there. Macman says, when I buy CDs now, I usually try to buy them directly from smaller artists. Monty, for me, it was faster to download a song via Napster than to rip it from CD, vinyl, or cassette. Yeah. And then for a lot of folks, those of you folks like Sly, who are big Springsteen fans, or folks who are fans of the Grateful Dead, where you get bootlegs of concerts that you couldn't buy for love or money because the record labels didn't sell it. So Napster allowed you to get bootlegs from a concert in Detroit or in the Bahamas or whatever it might be. And those were easy to put on your iPod. So the iPod definitely changed music. It changed the way we consumed music. I wonder if it changed music itself. I wonder if artists changed the way they created music because of the iPod and MP3s. I have heard from some artists who said that they record differently because of MP3s. There's no need for them to record with complete fidelity because they know it's going to get squashed in an MP3. Certainly do miss the days of vinyl for the tactile sensation of it, for the great big album with liner notes and all that kind of cool stuff. Not enough to go back to those days. I have known a record player since college. I'd be willing to bet most of you probably don't have them anymore either. Dave D says, I think it changed the makeup of what's popular. That's an interesting point, Dave. And I think that's what I was trying to get at. I wonder if it's actually done that. My tastes in popular music is null nowadays. I don't like most of what's popular music, but I'll give the benefit of the doubt to the artist because it's probably a factor of getting old. There was that thing, I read a study a few years ago where it said that for the most part, your musical tastes are frozen at the age of 30. That after 30, most people don't discover new music. They just keep listening to the stuff that they liked in their teens and 20s. And that's definitely true of me. I definitely still love the music I listened to in my teens and 20s, and very little of the music after, say, age 30 for me am I interested in. I mean, I own no Lady Gaga. I own no Justin Timberlake. I own no Beyonce. Taylor Swift. Those are young person music. I kind of hate to say it that way, but it's kind of true. Monty says, everything in my collection I want to listen to, I've ripped to AAC format, or I stream something like Pandora. If I want something for background music at a party, you're trying to relax to go to sleep. Wayne's posted in the Slack room a cartoon. Every conversation about music by everyone over the age of 25. And the guy is saying, I hate what teens listen to. I hate what teens listen to. Pop music peaked at the exact moment when I was the most emotionally vulnerable to trite love songs. And that's kind of true, but not really for me, because the music I liked back then was The Clash and The Police and Rage Against the Machine. And certainly with The Clash and The Police, they were not trite love songs. But I take your point, Wayne. That's a funny line. Dave D, I picked up a couple of new bands after 40. But yeah, we just don't discover new music. And that's part of the problem of the iPod. That it's easy to listen to what I already know is good music. I know everything on my iPod is great music. I always said this about people who put star ratings on their music. Why bother? I never bothered to star rate anything on my music because it was either a good song or a bad song. If it was a bad song, I deleted it. Wayne in the IRC chat room, in the Slack chat room, says something like Pandora is great for discovering new but similar stuff. Yeah, I agree. And Sherry posted a picture of her record player. Sherry, I let me guess, that record player is from the 80s. That is one old ass record player that Sherry just posted. That is I gotta show you this guy. This is a record player from like the 80s. It's just hilarious. Man, create external link. I don't know. I don't know if this will work for you guys, but take a look at this picture of Sherry's record player. Let me see. I can't make it bigger. Yeah, that's a record player from the 80s, Sherry. That's when that record player was made. It definitely is old. Monty says, I still have a few pieces of vinyl, but I don't have anything to play them on. Yeah, I don't have any vinyl or anything to play it on. Dave D says, the Jefferson Airplane and Grateful Dead for me. Yeah, see, we just like what we used to like and don't discover new stuff. I think that's one of the disadvantages of the iPod, but one of the advantages of the streaming services, whether it be Spotify or Pandora or Apple Music. In theory, it allows you to discover new music. Apple in the early days of iTunes, Apple used to have this great show, and it was called New Music Tuesday, because most albums are released on Tuesday. And I can't remember the woman's name, but there's a woman who did it. It was a podcast. And it was only about 10, 15 minutes long. And she would just recommend new music. And there was links on the Apple page for this stuff. And that's how I learned stuff. I tend to, at this age, listen to music that friends recommend. A friend I like will say, hey, have you heard this album? No, I haven't. You should listen to this album. Okay. And I'll go and find the album and listen to the album. But I don't listen to radio anymore. How about you? Do you guys still listen to radio? Music radio? A lot of us listen to talk radio or sports radio, that kind of stuff. But do you listen to just straight up music radio, your local K-Fox? And not the classic station, but the contemporary music. I'd be willing to bet most of us don't anymore. I don't think so. Just noticed Susan Gare has joined us in the IRC chat room. Susan and Logan are in the IRC. They are coming to Vancouver. Yay! They're coming to Vancouver August 19th and when are they coming to Vancouver? 19th to 23rd, I think it is. And I highly, highly recommend that the Gares, while they're here, join me at the P&E, the Pacific National Exhibition. Because at the P&E this year, for the first time, at least for me, in a very, very long time, the RCMP musical ride will happen. And the RCMP, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, will be. They do this really. You know, you've seen the Blue Angels. The Canadian version of a state fair, or the Vancouver version of a state fair, and so there's a state fairground. So there's rides and there's games that rip you off, and there's cotton candy and the little mini donuts. Oh my God, I love the mini donuts. I'm addicted to the little mini donuts. And then they have the agricultural component, which is kind of cool for a city kid to go to the agricultural stuff. It's cool. There's cows and there's sheep and there's chickens and there's rabbits and llamas and all kinds of pigs and all kinds of animals you can pet and see. It's a MacMan funnel cakes. I've never had a funnel cake though because they look disgusting, but it's definitely an aspect of state fairs that's a lot of fun. And unfortunately, Canada, or the P&E, has taken up the mantle of what can we fry next from you guys down south, Texas in particular. Shawn does not have audio set when he goes to the computer screen. Oh, shit. Hang on. Sorry. Audio, USB. Hang on. Okay, now you guys should hear audio. Sorry, P. Booth. Can you guys hear the audio now that this video is up? You guys in the Google Hangouts? Never lost it in Hangouts, Wayne said. Never had an audio drop. Okay, well, maybe it's just P. Booth. So yeah, you go to the P&E. I don't. You can go on the rides. I don't go on the rides. You have cotton candy, and you have funnel cakes, and you have the stuff. Dave D says, Texas State Fair. Pfft, ours is better. All right, Dave D, what state fair is yours is better? So the Gares, hopefully, Minnesota State Fair, okay. The Gares, hopefully, will come to the P&E, and I'm taking my photo group to take pictures of the RCMP musical ride. Guaranteed it'll be fun. By the way, Susan and Logan, they also have the Sly, if you could you find a link for Susan to the dog show at the P&E, which is so much fun. It's one of those dog agility things. It's so much fun to go see the dogs. And they have concerts, and they have a whole bunch of stuff. And then that evening, we're going to do a photo shoot of long exposure stuff. So folks can, my photography group can practice doing long shutter speed things. So it's fun. It's the only downside is that it's in August and it's going to be stupidly hot, Susan. I don't think it gets that hot where you guys are in middle Northern California in Happy Valley. But get ready for that. If you guys are going to be there for the full day, make sure you guys drink a lot of water and stay in the shade as much as you can, because it can be nasty. Monty says Logan will be just about half the height of Uncle Shawn now. Well, Monty, that's how tall you are. Northern, and we're coastal, yeah. So it's liable to be stinking hot here in Vancouver. Yeah, you're gonna melt. So be prepared. Drink lots of water and stay in the shade as much as you can, because it's going to be hot. Monty says 5'9". Yeah, well, 5'9" is short. All right, you're short. All right, Monty, you're short. I'm teasing you. Just waiting for Jim to text me that he is he's in a meeting now, so I can't, we haven't got him on the air. We're liable to be doing a short show. Scott Randall says, Pad Pro is laptop replacement. I wanted to send you this. I want you to know that I 100% agree with you and Jim that one journalist's opinion does not hold for everyone. For some users, the iPad Pro, or even just the iPad, it can be a laptop replacement. I have a friend whose needs are not that much, and he uses just a regular iPad with an external keyboard. For me, an iPad, even a Pro, could never replace my MacBook Air for what I need to do. In addition, for a lot of what I do, I'm more comfortable working on my desk with a larger screen. A couple of the macro writers wrote opinion pieces I completely disagree with. Michael Simon wrote, how the iPad Pro and iOS 11 will finally kill the MacBook Air. Yeah, I agree, Scott. That's a stupid article. He does not take into consideration that at this point, the iPad cannot run software that some of us need. For myself and anyone else who works with documents that require science and math fonts and the ability to insert equations, no iPad is able to do this efficiently. You can get it done, but it's clumsy and takes a lot longer. So this writer is the opposite of the one you mentioned. Neither of them are correct. It's based on an individual user's needs. Now, the macro writer praised the 12-inch MacBook. I think it's very overpriced and does not give you enough for the money. One port? You're paying all the extra money for the privilege of spending $200 for a dock? If you need to go to a projector, plug in your iPad to use through your Mac, use a wired mouse, plug in your AC power, you can't do this without any extra hardware. The only thing the MacBook has that the MacBook Air does not is the Retina display. Now, I really should look again to see a difference with the 27-inch iMac. Due to the small screen, even at its present resolution, the dot pitch on the MacBook Air is larger, so the text looks sharper. Basically, no matter what any journalist says, they almost always forget there is no one size fits all. That's a good point, Scott. And I think you can easily discount the statements of those people who say that this device will kill that device. It's very rare that that is true. It's highly unlikely that that is true. Simply because everyone's different. Everyone's needs, wants, desires for their computing environment is different. And as you said, one size doesn't fit all. It possibly can't fit all. I'm trying to think of some things that does fit all. And when it comes to computers, because the MacBook and the iPad are so physically different, they're going to serve different needs for different people. I never use my iPad Air, my iPad when I'm sitting at this desk. I never use my MacBook Air when I'm sitting on the couch. They get swapped. I use my iMac for my day-to-day work, and then when I'm relaxing, I use my iPad. Or when I'm in bed and reading, I wouldn't bring my MacBook Air into bed with me. So no, it's not going to kill. One isn't going to kill the other. For a lot of people, I think for the majority of people that are like me, that they can get, they complement each other. One can't replace the other. And again, for some people, it can. Federico Viticci is famous for saying that he does all of his work on an iPad. Great, good for him. He's one of the few that can do that, though. But for those folks whose needs with computers are very simple, basically someone who needs an advanced Kindle that they can play simple games on, and watch videos, watch Netflix, light, portable. An iPad could replace a laptop for them. But I would argue those people never needed a laptop to begin with. They may have had a laptop. I was talking to the cute Australian girl the other day, and she has a laptop, and in talking to me, she says, I realized that I use 20% of the laptop. She's a candidate for someone who could get by with just an iPad. She can't because of her work. She needs to do a lot of stuff that can't be done on the iPad. But for her personal stuff, all she ever uses her laptop for is email and web browsing and Netflix. So she absolutely could get away with using an iPad. So yeah, anytime you hear someone say the iPad will kill the MacBook, make a note of their name and never read anything from them ever again, because they're dumb as stumps. Okay? I'm going to go into the starting point photography segment while we're waiting for... diehard iPhone user. Now he wants to move to a DSLR. What do I suggest? What should he look for in buying a DSLR? First of all, decide your budget. That's the easiest way to do it. Let your budget dictate to you what kind of DSLR you're going to buy. And you can get, depending on whether you want to buy new or used, and I recommend buying new for your first one, you can get a damn good DSLR for $500. And that will include one or two lenses, probably two lenses. So look for that. Look to how much money you're going to spend, and then buy a DSLR that fits into that range. And there's going to be a lot that fit into that range. You're going to have a lot of different options for what you can buy with that $500, $600. So keep an eye on Amazon.com or your local sales, or whatever it might be that you are looking for when it comes to buying a DSLR. As I've said before, and I've had people disagree with me, I don't think brand matters. That's a personal opinion. I don't think it's going to make a whole lot of difference whether you are using a Canon or a Nikon or a Sony or Pentax, as a beginner, it's not going to matter. The only thing I would say is if you have a friend who's a pro and will lend you his fancy lenses, buy whatever he's got. So if you've got a friend who's a pro who shoots Canon, buy a Canon. Nikon, buy a Nikon. But otherwise, pick the one that fits in your budget. Don't stress too much about brands right now. One of the most important things that I tell folks is find a camera that fits, that physically fits. Don't buy it online. Go to your local camera store. Go to Best Buy. Go to a place like that where you can physically feel the camera. You're going to be surprised how important that is, that the buttons are big enough for you. My Olympus M1, I love the Olympus M1 for its compactness and great quality, but the buttons are really tiny on me, so I don't use it very often. Whereas my Nikon D600 is a great big huge beefy camera, and I love it because it's heavy and it's got giant buttons I can find in the dark, and so for me personally, that's why I like my Nikon. So you want to feel the camera, you want to feel the weight of it, you want to feel the material of it, you want to make sure that it's something that you like to feel. So it's price and physicalness. Generally you're going to get, if you're going to shoot, if you're looking to buy between $500 and $1,000, you're going to get what's called a crop sensor. So it's not a full frame sensor. It's about half the size of a full frame sensor. Don't worry about that too much. As a beginning camera, unless you want to spend more money than you are likely to use, don't think you have to buy a full frame camera. If a sales guy tells you have to buy a full frame camera, walk away. Because as a beginner, you don't need a full frame camera. As a beginner, you probably don't know what crop sensor and full frame even mean. So it's not going to matter to your photography for the most part. The other aspect of a beginner camera is don't let the sales guy try to sell you an extra lens. Oh, you're going to need just 300 millimeter lens. No, you don't. You don't know what kind of photographer you are, so you don't know what kind of lens to buy. That's the good and bad side of DSLRs. That interchangeable lens stuff means that you can buy different lenses for different situations. Well, you don't know what kind of photographer you are. The kit lens that you're going to buy is going to be 18 to 55 millimeter, which is a good, fairly close-up lens, and maybe you'll get a 55 to 200 lens. And they're both going to be average quality, but don't buy another one. No matter how tempting it is, unless they throw it in for free, don't buy another one. Because until you know what kind of photographer, if you already know what kind of photographer you are, I'm a portrait photographer, then that's fine. But if you don't know what kind of shooting you like to do, stick with those two kit lenses, learn how to use those, and after 6 months or a year, go, okay, this is the kind of photography I like. I'll buy that lens that's dedicated to that kind of photography. Definitely buy a nifty 50. I know I just said don't buy an extra lens, but I make a exception for this one. The nifty 50 lens is a little tiny physical size lens. It's made out of plastic. It's under $200 for the Canon, under $200 for the Nikon. It's really good in low light conditions. So if you find yourself taking pictures in dark rooms with candlelight or just a overhead lamp, then go ahead and get that one. It's a fun lens to play around with. Whether the next thing that's I think is most important is speed. Look at the camera, look at the specs of the camera, look at the manual, look online, or look on the camera itself. You're going to get a shutter speed of probably 1/2000, or 1/2000th of a second, maybe 1/4000th of a second. That's plenty fast. You don't need 1/8000th of a second until you learn how to shoot in that situation. So shutter speed is not a crucial thing, but shooting speed is. Nowadays, most DSLRs have no lag from the time you turn it on to the time you can take a picture. But the speed issue comes in when you're trying to focus. Most of the time, you're going to have a camera that's set on autofocus. So what that means is you're going to point the camera at your subject. You're going to half press the shutter button. Your camera's going to focus on whatever it is you want it to focus on, and then you'll hit the shutter and take a picture. How fast the camera goes from that half press to where you can push the shutter is a speed issue. And beginner cameras are generally slightly slower than pro cameras. You probably won't even notice the difference. But you will notice it if your camera and lens, if you're shooting it in really low light conditions, you'll find the shutter, the lens not be able to find focus. It's called hunting focus. And it will switch back and forth between those little focus points. If you're trying to do something like shoot, for example, a black cat at night, there's not enough contrast there between the subject matter and the background, and a camera will have a lot of trouble locking focus on those kind of things. So that'll be an issue with a beginner camera. It's something to think about, but not something to buy specifically. Your next camera, you'll want faster shutter speed, or if you're the kind of person, not shutter speed, focus speed, or if you're the kind of person who already know you want to shoot things that are moving fast, kids and dogs and birds and cars, then you'll notice that slow autofocus speed on some DSLRs. The image quality on the vast majority of DSLRs that you're going to buy today is going to be fantastic. For a $500 to $1,000 camera, whether it be Canon or Nikon or Pentax or Sony, you're going to get a good camera. It's going to take good pictures, especially if you shoot in RAW. There is some iffiness with JPEGs, but you can find that out by going to a website like dpreview.com and seeing what they rate the JPEG rating of any particular camera is. So if you shoot RAW, you're not going to worry about image quality itself. Image quality is going to be good. If you're taking good photos, they'll come out good in your on your computer. The other thing, like I said before, do not buy online. Do not buy online. You want, if this is your first DSLR, and this is what Tom was asking about, you want to be able to, if something happens, return that camera immediately. So if you go to Best Buy and buy it there, if something's wrong with the camera, you can walk into Best Buy and go, camera broken, fix. Whereas if you buy, even at B&H Video or Adorama or Amazon, the return process is going to be a pain in the ass for you. So don't buy online for your first camera, maybe even your second. I bought my Nikon D600 online because I knew I liked Nikon. I'd done the research on the camera. I knew it was going to be a good camera for me, so I had no problem buying online. But for a first-time buyer, definitely go into the store, and it's obviously a reputable store. Don't buy from those guys in Times Square in New York City. The other thing about buying online that I want to warn folks about is you'll often see these insanely good deals where you'll see a camera that's regularly priced $2,000 you can buy for $500. That is going to rip you off. I guarantee you that's going to rip you off. Do not fall for that deal. That's not a deal. That's a scam. I promise you it's a scam. If the regular price of a camera is $2,000, the best deal you're going to get is probably $1,700. If the regular price is $1,000, the best deal you're going to get is probably $700. Any deal that's too good to be true, like the cliche says, probably is. So the Canon Rebel series is the single most popular camera series in history. You can't go wrong buying the Canon Rebel. You can't go wrong buying Canon. They make great DSLRs. They have a fantastic choice in lenses. They make good cameras. So don't think that I don't know about this. The Canon EOS Rebel line, I think it's up to I want to say T5 or T6 now. You're going to get a good camera. For Nikon, the D3300 series, is also going to be a very, very good camera. It comes with the advantage that it comes in red. Maybe you want a red camera because all camera bodies are black. Sony makes good DSLRs. The mirrorless cameras are better. The Sony A series, I want to say A50, A60, somewhere in that range, also going to be a very, very good beginner DSLR. Used, if you can get a used Canon Rebel for a couple $100, like for example, if you're a Costco member, Costco will often sell old versions of the Canon Rebel for $300 with 2 lenses and a bag. Grab that deal. That's a good deal. Because new Canon Rebels with 2 lenses and a bag are, on Amazon $500 to $700, depending on time of year. So if you can go to Costco and get one for under $400, that's a really good deal. Because Costco has also got a good return policy too. If the camera isn't what you want, you can always return it. Monty says the big camera store here in Atlanta, Showcase Camera and Video, closed earlier this year. So there's no place to send new photography people other than Best Buy, Sam's Club, or Costco. They closed because they couldn't compete with the online prices, having a store as huge as they had in the neighborhood they were in. Maybe they could have moved to a cheaper neighborhood. But Monty says no place to send new photographers other than Best Buy, Sam's Club, or Costco. What's wrong with those places? I wouldn't send someone to Best Buy, Sam's Club, or Costco to ask for advice on buying a new camera. I would send them there to buy a new camera. I have no problem sending folks to Best Buy or London Drugs here in Canada to buy a new camera. Best Buy guys, as Wayne's about to say, as Wayne said what I was about to say, Best Buy staff is sketchy as hell. Exactly. I would never ask Best Buy staff advice on anything. No offense to any Best Buy employees who may be listening, but in general, they're, shall we say, unknowledgeable, to be kind. But if you know you want a Canon Rebel TSI and you go into Best Buy and they got a good deal, buy it at Best Buy. Sam's and Costco have 2 choices. I just hate sending anybody to Best Buy for any reason. Slimy. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. So, but it's something to not worry too much about, Tom. I keep telling folks, just buy a camera. Buy a camera you can afford. Learn how to use the camera. Don't stress out about, am I getting the best camera? You are. Buy a Canon. Buy a Nikon. You're getting the best camera in that price range. I promise you. If you buy the newest version of whatever they're selling. And then learn how to use the camera. That's more important than getting the best deal on lenses or anything else like that. Getting a good camera at a good price with a couple of decent kit lenses and then learning how to use the camera. Read the manual. I know the manual sucks. The manual sucks for everybody. But read it. Go on YouTube. Do a search for your camera in YouTube, and I guarantee there'll be 1,000 videos on YouTube on how to do all kinds of different camera tips, tricks, and techniques. And the other thing I tell folks is, if you're on YouTube and you don't like the sound of the guy's voice, skip it. If he's not explaining things well, skip it. Don't force yourself to learn stuff from a person who isn't explaining it in a way that you like to be explained to, because there's 400 other guys out there who will explain it better. Don't waste a lot of time trying to figure out someone's YouTube video. If what he's saying doesn't click with you instantly, whether it be the sound of his voice or the way he shoots the video or the words that come out of his mouth, click away. Go somewhere else. There's all kinds of guys out there that can shoot and do shoot better video that you will enjoy much more, rather than trying to force yourself to figure out what this guy on YouTube is talking about. Wayne in the Slack room says, I don't work for Best Buy. I pride myself being totally honest at times about products we sell. If something is shit, I say so. That's what you want. That's absolutely what you want. Unfortunately, most sales guys... MacMan says that. MacMan, while I don't work for Best Buy, I pride myself being totally honest at times about products we sell. If something is shit, I'll say so. Yeah, absolutely. That's what you want from a sales guy. You want honesty. Unfortunately, so many people have been ripped off so many times that, especially at Best Buy, that all sales guys get painted with the same brush. Monty says, take Shawn's class for newbie photographers. Borrowing the ability to do that, look up John Greengo. Chances are he probably already has a video for the camera you're interested in. Yeah, Greengo does a lot of stuff over at creativelive.com. Thanks, Monty, for the plug. Take Shawn's classes. My classes, I teach the 2 classes, how to shoot better video, how to shoot better images no matter what camera you have, and how to shoot better pictures with your DSLR. Both the classes can be done online. They can both be done while you're sitting there in your jammies. We do it via Google Hangouts, and you watch me demonstrate this stuff to you. And I got this wonderful note from Wayne. Wayne's parents, his mom and dad, took my class a while ago, and Wayne said, before I forget, my parents tell me they're making use of what you taught them. My mom with garden and bird pics, and my dad with the tall ships we just had here in Halifax. That's wonderful. Thanks very much for letting me know that way. I love hearing from folks that they're what I said they're putting into practice, and hopefully you guys can do that too. So, MacMan says, still want to fly up to Vancouver sometime when you do one of your photo walk classes. You're more than welcome to, MacMan. Matter of fact, October 7th, we are doing another one of the Scott Kelby worldwide photo walks here in Vancouver. We'll be doing Gastown this year. And Dave D says, I did use your Silky Waterfalls tip. Or Dave, fantastic. They came out great. Oh, that's I love hearing that. I love hearing that. I love hearing that you guys are using the tips I say and getting good results. So what we're doing for the Worldwide Photo Walk, a little different this year. We're going to go to Gastown, and then afterwards we're all going to meet up at a pub and do a photo critique, which could be kind of fun. Thanks very much to the cute Australian girl for that idea. She said I should do that. I should do that with the group, doing more photo critiques. Doesn't look like Dalrymple's going to be joining us. So unfortunately, because I'm sitting here like a Christmas turkey basting my own juices, I got to get out of here, kids. It's, like I said, 35 degrees in my apartment, and I can see the sheen on my face. Cinnamon, you know. You can see the sheen on my face. So we'll talk about Apple's earnings reports next week with Jim Dalrymple. So thank you guys for being tuned in, whether you're tuned in live or whether you're listening into the archive. I appreciate you guys being tuned in. As always, send us emails. If you have any email questions about photography or comments about stuff like Scott Randall did, about things that are going on in the Mac world, send me an email to Shawn at yourmaclifeshow.com. Until next week, as always, I've been your host, Shawn King, and you've been listening to Your Mac Life. See ya!